upside down?
It's upside down.
Oh, it's upside down?
Yeah, it goes the other way.
Oh, okay, sorry.
There we go. That is so
Okay,
nice.
exactly when did I lose control of this show? Class 1, Class 2, maybe 3 or 4.
But I'm class 5 and so much more.
This old world is anything but boring. Just take a look. Right there.
I'm pushing record right now, Jerry. That's a lovely mask you have
Isn't
on.
that a great mask?
That's fantastic.
Actually, a friend of mine made it, and you've met her. She regularly helps me out at Canoecopia, and she sent this to me. I just got it a couple days ago.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I got it. There you go. But I obviously won't wear it. Are you really recording?
I am recording.
Okay. Hold on. Let me put my guitar back up for now. I was just practicing a song. Okay.
You practice songs? I thought you were a professional.
Well, no. That's the professionals. No, amateurs don't practice. Professionals do. So I'm somewhere in between, actually.
Somewhere there.
Because when I saw some of the songs, you want to go, oh man, I haven't played that one in a long time. I need to practice it and stuff. So anyway, so I got to tell you that that video that Christine posted about the acting out of a Zoom meeting, that was a riot. That was so funny.
I love when the dog barks, because that's what my dog's been doing through all these.
Oh yeah. It'll probably happen here too. In fact, I'm surprised they're not. I closed the door. I'm in my writing room right now, as you can see with my stuff spread out behind me. But I closed the door so they wouldn't come in. But a lot of times they're up when I'm doing a Zoom meeting or something. They're up on the bed and barking and stuff. And when that dog barked, that did me in. That was
good.
Way too funny.
Yeah. Your attempt at a fire was really good. I wasn't recording at the time, but let's just say that we could see the fire, but we couldn't see you.
Well, that's probably just as good. By the way, I haven't had a chance. I wanted to definitely see the Hap Wilson one, and I'm really looking forward to the James Raffin one that you're doing or got coming up. So they are archived, right? I can go look for them on your YouTube channel, or
Yeah, for sure. Just when I premiere them, you can actually chat and ask questions, and then after that, it just goes on archives. Yeah.
Cool.
James even did a reading at the end. Whoa.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah. You know, I saw him the last 2 years. I mean, I've known him for a long time. In fact, I met him originally at the, when they had the Canoe Songs project for the Canadian Canoe Museum.
That's right.
And I have one song on that second album, and they invited me to come up and play it at the Canadian Canoe Museum. We can talk about that if you want, but and that's where I met James, and we became instant friends. He's an easy guy to become friends with, as you know, and so we've been in touch all this time. And so the last 2 years that I was up in your way at the Toronto Outdoors, Bear and I went to, and of course this year I played it to the Wilderness and Canoe Symposium, and James he always gives the last talk, and he was just so good. I mean, he brought a tear to my eye every time he talks. It's so good.
Yeah, it was really good. He did a back screen with a fire, and it worked for him.
Well, he probably has higher tech than I do.
I think he does, actually. I think his wife helped him with that one. Hey, It's a Whisky Fireside chat. I'm having because I was going. You know what? I was going to have this, but that's terrible. So I thought bourbon would be good for talking to an American musician.
That's yeah, especially if it's Kentucky bourbon.
It's good bourbon.
Is it Kentucky or Canadian?
Yeah, we don't drink a lot of bourbon here. Mind you.
What do you mean? They make bourbon in Canada. Canada's famous for its bourbon.
Really?
Yeah. At least I've been told that. I don't know. You know what? Let me go. Are we? You want to turn the recording off? I got to go get my drink.
Okay. No, I'm going to go record.
Okay. All right. I'll be right back. We'll see if the dogs come in.
Okay. Jerry gave me this when I saw him in Michigan, and it's a moonshine. I don't think it's real moonshine, but it's moonshine from where he's from. He's from Nashville. He's a musician from Nashville. There's not many musicians in Nashville. Not a lot of songwriters. Not a lot of fiddlers and guitarists and things like that. I think he's the only one. And he actually gave me that, and it's elderberry moonshine. Oh, I'm just talking to myself here. There he is. There he is.
Sure. So, to disappoint, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is not good whiskey time here in Tennessee. So I'm going to join you with my Big K Diet Root Beer.
Oh my God.
With the word beer is the closest it's coming to alcohol today. So,
well, my latest one, I couldn't make it a whiskey chat. I was talking to a youth group, and so
oh yeah,
I made it a tea chat. It was interesting. And also it was actually at 11 o'clock during the day. So yeah, I like my scotch, but I'm not having one at 11 o'clock. Well, during a pandemic maybe, but yeah, we're having some bourbon, and you're having some root beer.
Yeah, generic brand root beer, diet root beer.
Cheers.
Yeah, really. Here you go.
All right, look.
Let's get started. All right, let me put my mask on then.
You can't sing with that thing on. Well, I guess you could, but in a pandemic you have to. All right.
I can't drink with it. I can't drink with it on though. That's the problem.
Oh, I found this. Think of.
All right. What did I say on it? Thanks, Jerry Vandiver.
Yeah. And then Stephanie and is it Jared? No.
Somebody else sign it?
Two other.
Oh, the other bell ringers.
Tim was offered to help zip it up. I thought he was going to pull his udder there.
The ones that were on stage with you.
Oh, that's who.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right.
And now that I think about it, I actually bought a special Sharpie, a silver one, so we could sign that bell.
Yeah, cool. More cowbell.
And another funny thing is that I didn't have any drumsticks. And so I said, where can I, because I didn't want to go buy like expensive drumsticks at a music store. So I looked on Craigslist, and a guy had like 4 or 5 drumsticks for sale. And they were like for $10. I said, okay, I'll go buy it.
We got to get some drumsticks to all of you. So we have a drumstick for Phil. And we have a drumstick for Linda. We have a drumstick for Leslie. And we have a drumstick for Kevin.
And so the funny thing about it is that when I went to buy him, he had to meet me on a street corner. And I literally drove up, handed him $10, and he gave me the drumsticks. It was like we were doing a drug deal or something, man. It was really scary. I was wondering, boy, I wonder what the story is with these drumsticks that I had to do at a drive-by purchase.
And this is one of those?
That's one of them, yeah.
I went across the border with this, sir.
I'm surprised they didn't ask you if you were carrying any drumsticks into the United States.
I didn't know there was cocaine put through the middle of it. Oh, all right, so you're a musician from Nashville.
I am.
And I don't really know you as a musician from Nashville. I just know you as the canoe guy that sings.
Yeah.
And but let's go, before we get into music, what got you into canoeing or wilderness travel? Who, what, when, where?
Well, I thank you for sending the questions in advance so I could think about this and have somewhat of an intelligent answer. There are 2 answers. One is canoeing and wilderness travel. And I actually failed canoeing merit badge in Boy Scouts. I think that's an important, because I couldn't do the J-stroke up a river in Missouri. I'm from Missouri originally. And so I did go, the southern Missouri has beautiful clear Ozark streams. They're national waterways, scenic waterways and stuff, mostly class 1, but really fun, beautiful, scenic, crystal clear water. And as a resident of Missouri, I would go there during paddling season as much as I could, sometimes every weekend on several different rivers in that area. And so that's where my canoeing bug got bit. And I bought for those rivers way back in my stupid years when I was in my upper teens and low 20s, I bought a 90-pound Ouachita aluminum canoe. This is a monster. Okay, you couldn't shoot a bullet in this thing. And and I actually, when I moved to Nashville to chase my songwriting dreams, I bought that canoe with me. I brought it with me, and there's a few streams around here, and I would take that canoe out on those rivers. And then as the years went by, I was going through a divorce, nothing you can relate to, of course. And, and I was kind of bitter about it. And I have a buddy of mine here in town, and actually you've met him, Mark Elliott. He had come up to Canoecopia with me a couple of times. And he said, Jerry, you need an attitude adjustment. I'm going to take you on a canoe trip in this place called Quetico. And we're going to go for 2 weeks. And he said, first thing is you need a little bit of money and you need a canoe. And I said, well, I got a canoe. It's my aluminum Ouachita 90-pounder, no problem, And I made some yoke packs, thing. I know you Canadians don't use yoke pads, but I made some. And but then it was the money thing. And he said, and this was a really funny thing. I hope your viewers will enjoy this. So I had just gotten a big Tim McGraw cut. In fact, it's that one right there. It's now platinum 6 album, big record, sold 6 million records. And I just got my wife moved out. We were planning this trip in April to go in July. And my wife my now ex-wife moved out on April 1st. Happy April Fools. On April 4th, I got my first royalty check for that record. And it was $20,000. Yeah. So, so I went to a different bank, opened up a different bank account, and I had enough money to go anywhere, let alone a canoe trip to Quetico. So to answer your question, so Mark and his then fiance and another guy here, we went up there and we did 2 weeks in Quetico. And even though the 90-pound canoe just absolutely destroyed me, I was just hooked. And I came back, and that was in 1994, and I've been going up ever since, every year. I just, and it was actually on that trip that the song thing started too, because I don't remember where it was, but it was a brutal portage. And of course, with the aluminum canoe, it was even worse. And I remember walking down this trail with the canoe on my shoulders. And Mark and Michelle were coming back up for their second run. We always did a double portage or portage, excuse me. They just say it right. And and Mark said, "How's it going?" I said, "You know what? When I get off of this trip, the first thing I'm going to do is write a song called Rocks and Roots." And I did, and I put that song aside, like, Blake Shelton's, Garth Brooks is not going to cut a song called Rocks and Roots, but so I wrote that, and that was the start of it all in that regard. So it was kind of on the same trip.
Well, that was a while back then too. So
it was 1994. Yeah. That's 26 years ago.
What was it? Well, so I think your first album was like in 2001, but it wasn't to do with doing.
Well, that album, yeah, that was 2001. In fact, it was interesting. It was actually being pressed during the September 11th attacks in New York City. And so everything got delayed by a few months, but yeah, that was there wasn't any canoeing songs or anything on that one. That was just a conglomeration of songs that were always really important to me. And I was playing some songwriter festivals in the Bluebird Cafe here in Nashville and stuff. And people back in those days bought CDs more than they do now. And there was no downloading even, for that matter. And as a result, I had people wanted to buy my music, which was a thrill. And I said, okay, I'll make a CD, because I still had some Tim McGraw royalty checks coming out. That was the good part of that. And so the first CD I made in 2001 was that one called Don't Try This at Home. And I started, then I didn't make my first paddle song CD though until about 2012, I think it was.
Yeah, that was True and Deep, right?
True and Deep, yeah.
Yeah, and so why? Like, all of a sudden, did you have this religious experience, or?
Almost, really, in that respect. Well, it really came down to, I was a participant just as a regular, guy going to Canoecopia every year. And and I knew Darren. In fact, Darren had actually made us a really cool little wedding present when we got married in the Boundary Waters a couple of years earlier. And, and I'd gone to many of your presentations and Cliff's and everybody else's and bought lots of gear. And, but these songs started stacking up. I had the Rocks and Roots song, and I had another one called Under the Same Sky that was recorded on the Canoe Songs project for the Canadian Canoe Museum several years earlier. I didn't record it. It was recorded by Cindy Church, who's a folk singer there. And I think she lives in the Toronto area. I've never had a chance to meet her. But anyway, so I had these songs kind of stacking up, and I thought, it'd be really fun to go up and play these songs to an audience that loves the same things I do. So and then here's another. I had also, it's funny. This is all related to Tim McGraw. I had also gotten another song recorded by Tim McGraw, and it was on. Let's see if I can find it. That album up there. Let me point that one right there, and that actually was a hit record as well. And so I was getting some good royalties. And so I called Darren and I said, I've got this idea. I know you're not a music festival or anything, but I've got all these songs about canoeing and camping and stuff. What if I bring a band up and just play them? And he said, let's do it. I mean, essentially, I still had to fill out the applications and everything, but he said, let's do it. And so as I was putting that all together, I thought, I really need to have a CD to support that, in case people want to buy it. I don't know if anybody would or not. In fact, I didn't even know if I'd even have an audience, quite honestly. I remember going up thinking, I hope 5 people show up at this thing. And so I made the CD to couple with the trip to Canoecopia. And it was my intent. That was the only time I was ever going to do that. Kind of the rest is history. I went and played that Canoecopia. I'm pretty sure that was 2012. We'd have a little hot time over in the tent. Ooh. I'm never too tired to start a fire, too tired to fan the flame. I'm out of breath, she's a little wired, but oh no, you won't hear me complain. And we had a great audience. It was a smaller room than I'm in now, but it was standing ovations, and it was like, wow, this is really cool. And I should have realized that, I think, because for the first time, I'm playing these songs that people really can relate to. Here in Nashville, with a couple of exceptions, if I did a song, like Rocks and Roots about the drudgeries of portaging, that my audience at the Bluebird Cafe would look at me like, what's he thinking about here? They want to hear my Tim McGraw songs or whatever. But since then I've actually occasionally down here have worked them in, but that's what I was thinking when I made the CD. And so then after Canoecopia, I started looking around and thought, well, I wonder if there's any place else I can do this. And, you've been very gracious in pointing me in right directions. And next thing I know, I'm playing a few paddle festivals and rendezvous and trade shows and stuff. And 5 CDs later, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was almost like every 2 years you would have one out with all.
It is. Stuff. Yeah, it is it's every 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I generally, I could probably hunker down and make one every year, but that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to record a CD. And it's also like, I want to take that time to really get the songs out there in different formats and different shows and stuff like that. So every 2 years works really well for me to have although I've already started new songs. I don't know if we'll come up with another CD or not, but I've already got some new songs that I haven't recorded yet that I'm working on. And that's the nice thing about it. They all come at a nice pace, so that by the end of 2 years, I've got 10 to 12 new songs to do. So we'll see.
That's cool. Could you play Rocks and Roots right now?
Yeah, I can. Let me grab the guitar.
A sign of a true musician. I just went like that, and he just.
All right. Let's see. Can I do this key? Yeah. Yeah, this is what I remember this actually. I remember when I wrote it, it was one of those 3 a.m. Inspirations. You know, I mean, I had the idea from the Quetico trip, but I never sat down with it. And I, had one of those nights where I had to get up multiple times in the night to pee, and I didn't go back to sleep. I had this idea for a song, so I sneaked up into my living room, and here it is. Glide through the water, deep, dark, and clear. Only my paddle breaks through the mirror. Just up ahead, the day's first portage, but waiting for me for the next 80 rides. Our rocks and roots sure do a number on my socks and boots. If pain goes with pleasure, well, there's no substitute for ankle turning, blister running, shoulder burning, toe stuffing, loud cursing, puddle jumping, rocks and roots. Push off so gently, back on the water, peacefully drifting, all is forgotten. Sandy beach landing, under blue skies. But what's there to greet me should be no surprise. More rocks and roots sure do a number on the socks and boots. If pain goes with pleasure, well, there's no substitute for ankle turning, blister running, shoulder burning, toe stuffing, loud cursing, puddle jumping, rocks and roots. Now when it's time to meet my maker, I pray there's canoes up there. But just my luck, before St. Peter takes me, he'll make me walk one more set of stairs of rocks and roots sure do a number with my socks and boots. If pain goes with pleasure, well, there's no substitute for ankle turning, blister rubbing, shoulder burning, toe stuffing, loud cursing, puddle jumping, rocks and roots. Those butt breaking, knee spraining, back aching, muscle straining. Oh, great! Now it's raining rocks and roots. Woo! There you go.
That's great. That song is that old. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was a lot of fun to write too. I mean, it was just, that's the thing about writing these songs now. It's they say write what you know in this business, and I know that stuff. We all do. And I think that's one reason why it's been a lot of fun for me and our audiences is that they can relate to it like nobody else can,
Well, that's interesting. So do you then, do you write canoe songs to entice yourself to go canoeing, a reason to go canoeing, or do you go canoeing to write the songs?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before. I hate to be generic about it, but I think that it happens both ways. There's many times where I've been out there on the water and a song comes to me, and I don't bring my guitar normally on a canoe trip. Oh, there's the dog barking. Yeah, I don't bring my guitar with the one exception on the Lonestar trips. My Lonestar canoe sponsor, by the way, I wear that here. get that in there. But I don't. So for lots of reasons, mainly which I don't want to portage another piece of equipment. Plus, I don't want to, get it hurt in the case that rain or capsizing, whatever may cause. So when I do have a song idea out there, I either have to have a recording device, a little one. Sometimes I bring that, or I keep singing it until my friends my paddle partners are nuts. But will you stop singing that new song? But and then sometimes it happens after a trip. A lot of times after a trip, something will have happened, and I'll think, oh wow, that would make a really good song idea, and so I'll do that. Now, in fact, on the way back from Cornucopia this year, which we did not get to do, as you well know, we had a really loaded van this year because not only did I bring back all the rest of the merchandise and sound gear and stuff, and Caitlin on fiddle and Ashley on bass, but I also had some other stuff that Lonestar gave me. And so we were packed to the hill. I felt like we were an Apollo capsule, just three of us coming back. Anyway, so we joked that there was no more room in the van. And a couple of weeks ago, Caitlin and I wrote a song called No More Room in the Van about paddling. And it's about I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's a duet, so I can't do it now because she sings part of it. But the idea is that the guy is loading up as much gear and as big a stuff as he can possibly do. And there's no more room in the van to take his partner, who's the girl. And so she fixes it by getting all the ultralight gear. And she wins, of course, every time. And it's a really cute song. I hope we do it next year if we are able to get out there. So sometimes after a trip, a song idea comes as well.
So, I mean, in one sense, I should ask you what musicians inspires you, and you can give us a couple of those. But what paddlers inspired you? Was it Bill Mason, Sigurd Olsen?
Well, Sig Olsen's a big inspiration because he's so poetic in his writing. But I can't say that any of those people have inspired me to actually write a specific song. Now, I will say this, though, to your credit, I wrote a blues song inspired to have you play. So you're on the list, Kevin. and to your credit, and we're making fun of it. And of course, that'll help your playing a lot. Pour that whiskey on some more. To your credit, man, the last time you played it, I was pretty impressed, man.
No, I suck.
Well, it's going to be fun if we ever get to do it. If we ever get to do it together, which I hope we do, it's going to be a blast.
Well,
for your listeners and viewers that don't know what we're talking about, there's a song that I wrote specifically in mind to have Kevin play along with me called the Blue Bandana Blues. And it's a really fun song, and I hope we get to play it together with Kevin on harmonica.
Well, it's just funny if you don't know. I've been on your stage for many years now, doing really silly things, right? Cowbell, dressed as a cow, and actually, Justine reminded me that she pulled my udder during that whole thing. That was interesting. And that woman taking my PFD off, and I got all red in the face.
You're safe right here with me, so you can take off that PFD off. Don't you paddle, sweet baby. Don't you sit down, poor baby.
Your fiddle player.
That was a classic moment.
Oh my Lord! And I don't. And the thing is, so I used to drum in a band, and I wasn't all that good either, but I enjoy the drums. And it was funny. It's like you never have ever asked me to play something I know what to do.
Well, you played the barrel. Now you played the barrel. That was pretty good percussion.
Back on a boat or whatever you do, it doesn't matter just what it weighs. 'Cause it never fails that rocky old trail. It's still uphill. Yeah, it's a bitter pill, but it's still uphill.
It was, but I gave up and threw the barrel at the
I
audience.
know, until you threw it out there. I was like, okay, here comes the lawsuits.
Yeah, yeah. Or the rocks, when I threw the rocks at the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I made those rocks very soft foam, by the way. I knew that was coming.
Oh, my Lord.
This is team number one. How many people want to see team number one? How many people want to see team number two?
Oh, it's on! It's on!
Are you ready? Okay. One, two, three. Oh, wait a minute. Oh! One, two, three, and. They come in all shapes and sizes.
It's excellent. I really missed this year doing something silly. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah. The funny thing is I did really try to practice with the harmonica, and I didn't realize it was that difficult, and it is.
Yeah. I actually, quite honestly, I couldn't do it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So what's your favorite place to paddle?
Oh, gosh. You have to have one, huh?
You know what? I think that's really a stupid question, actually.
Yeah.
I
can tell you this. I love, let me put it this way. The Boreal Forest Northwoods is my favorite place to paddle, whether that's the Boundary Waters, Woodland Caribou, Wabakimi, Quetico, even the Crown Lands. I mean, that is my favorite place. I love flat water wilderness camping. I love that. And what really made me fall in love with it is that I also love the clear Ozark streams of southern Missouri. But those trips only at maximum give you 2 nights in, because you maybe paddle 40 miles, 50 miles tops, but then lately, the Lonestar people, we've been doing these trips in the American Southwest. And I'd love to take you on some of these sometime if we ever get an opportunity. A couple of years ago, we did the lower canyons of the Rio Grande River at Big Bend National Park with Texas on our left, Mexico on the right. It was stunning sceneries, 1,000-foot plus walls, great views and hiking, and it was a wonderful trip. Then last year we did the Green River in southeast Utah. I'm not the Green River, the San Juan River, which is where all those petroglyphs were. They were everywhere. It's like around every corner almost. There's petroglyphs everywhere in this area. That's really a rich history of the Anasazi natives there and Pueblo, as well as eventually the Navajo Indian. And we were hoping to get a permit for the Green River this year, but we weren't able to. So they're going back to the San Juan if the pandemic is safe to do so. So there's really 3 areas for me. There's the southern streams of the Ozarks, and then the Southwest has opened up a whole new thing for me. And but it always the Northwoods always called me back.
That's your familiar, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. There's I don't think with maybe crossing a few routes of the same routes. I don't think I've ever crossed the same lake twice over this 25 years. There's so much opportunity. That's the beauty of it up in your area is that there's it just never ends. And now I really want to go to Temagami really bad. But, that's unfortunately a really long drive for me. But, I think someday I'm going to do it. I got Hap promising to play blues harp with me at his lodge if I ever come up. So maybe we can all go up together and jam.
Oh, he'll love Jimmy for sure. Yeah, a very talented person. You were that song, your new album, The Middle of Somewhere, you wrote, was Writing in Stone? The one you were just talking about?
No. The one I wrote on the San Juan River, that was, The Middle of Somewhere actually came from the Rio Grande trip. In fact, the front cover of the CD, let's see if I got it here. Oh, it's down in my warehouse down in the hallway. Oh, wait a minute. I have it here. Yeah, here it is. That tent there is my tent. I think about our third or fourth day in on the Rio Grande River. And so the middle of somewhere kind of came from that idea. But the actual song that was written on the San Juan River was the one called Those Who Came Before, which is about meeting up with the petroglyphs and stuff. Yeah, they were stunning.
Of those two songs, I was going to ask you to do another performance. What
Sure.
would be the
Let's do the middle of let's do the middle of somewhere, because I think most people can relate to that. We all know how much we love to be out there, where everybody else calls it the middle of nowhere. That's kind of what inspired me. I thought, people keep saying, Jerry, you got in the middle of nowhere, and I go, it's not nowhere to me. It's a very special place to me. So yeah, let's do that.
My dog. Oh, come on, Angel. You lie down. Listen to a song by Jerry.
Yeah. I remember, not having my fiddle player with me. Let's see. Oh, I think I'll do it here.
I would count you in, but I'm really bad at that again.
And you're a drummer. There's a place on the map that I'm looking at with anticipation. It's a wide open space, not a single trace of civilization. Some may wonder why I want to go there. They say it's right in the middle of nowhere. But I'll take the grip of a paddle from a deep blue Northwoods lake and look up at a million stars shining down from the Milky Way. Yeah, that's my definition of luxury. You see, 'cause the middle of nowhere is the middle of somewhere to me. This is a cool fiddle part here. There's no traffic jams or cell phone scams anywhere out there. Just a crackling fire with the smoke that's rising in the cool night air. Yeah, I just let go of all of my cares whenever I'm there in the middle of nowhere. 'Cause I'll take the splash of the water from a crystal clear mountain stream and look up and feel the thunder just under an eagle's wing. Yeah, that's my definition of luxury. You see, 'cause the middle of nowhere is the middle of somewhere to me. Yeah, the middle of nowhere. In spite of all those bears, yeah, the middle of nowhere is the middle of somewhere to me. There you go.
That's excellent. I love that. I love the new album too. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That in spite of all those Bears lines, just, I'm sure your viewers will relate to that, because at least I hope they do, because I mean, how many times the people that are not your outdoor friends, they go, man, aren't you worried about the Bears? No. I mean, I get that constantly, and the funny thing is that I probably should be, because I think as a result of the Bear Barrel Polka, that's a true story, because I did have a bear take my food barrel one time, You know.
And it actually took your margarita mix, right?
There was margarita mix in the barrel, you know, and I can only imagine what happened if that bear found that margarita mix. You know, in hindsight, I wish now I had just I wish I had socially distanced with the bear. I didn't even know that term now that I think about it. If I had just kept about 10, 20 feet away from him, just followed him into the woods, he probably would have gotten frustrated, because I did have it was the small barrel, the 30-liter brew, but I had a clip on the opening part, and so he couldn't have got that part open. He may have obviously been able to punch through it if he was determined enough. But I wish now that I would have just kept my distance. He bluff charged me, and that scared me, to be honest with you. And but I wish now that I'd followed him in there, and you know, now I wish I had a video and everything else. It would have made for a great video. If it ever happens again, I'll definitely think differently.
It's never going to happen again.
Probably right. You're probably right.
So you're a paddler, you're a songwriter, but also you rescue dogs.
Yes, I do. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, my wife and I, we're real animal rights advocates, and especially domestic animals and stuff. And our two dogs are goofball mutts that are totally worthless. And so there's a couple of rescue dog organizations I work with here. One of them's called the Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary, that I play some of their events for as fundraisers. And they actually have 100 senior dogs aged 10 and over that a lot of people unfortunately take their senior dogs when they get old. They think, I don't want to spend any more money on them because they're getting old. I don't want any vet bills. So they surrender them at the shelters, and this sanctuary takes them so they can live out a life with some dignity. But another thing, there's actually a culture out there I didn't even know about till a friend swindled me into this, where these organizations find dogs in what we call, unfortunately, kill shelters, which means the dog comes into a public shelter and they're not adopted after a certain period of time. They get put down because there's more animals out there than there are homes. It's a very, very sad situation. But there's a lot of no-kill shelters, and dogs are adopted in the North and Canada more often than they are in the South, here in Tennessee and points south of me. So there's a culture out there that finds these dogs before they're on death row, is what they call them, and they get them before they get put down, and they find shelters and or homes anywhere in Minnesota and New York and parts of Canada and stuff. And so there's a transport culture where people it's like a relay race, and these dogs, maybe anywhere from 1 to 4 dogs, are in transport to be saved from these shelters up to these other shelters that are foster shelters and homes. And so like I'll drive from Nashville for an hour to Bowling Green, and then somebody from Bowling Green will meet me, and they'll drive to another town in Kentucky, then somebody will drive there to Ohio, and somebody will drive until by the end of the day they're somewhere up north at a shelter and a foster home. And so they get saved, and frequently I'll get notified, hey, remember Coco that you helped transport last month? We just found a home for them, and a real happy family. And it's a real rewarding thing to do. So I'm glad to be a part of that.
That's cool. I don't know a lot of people know about that. So
I was kind of stumbled into it. A friend of mine who had been doing it at the last minute couldn't do one. And I said, I'll help you out. I'll do it. And then the next thing I know, can you do this? Can you do this one? Can you do this one? And so I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. The other thing is I also, in my love of the outdoors and wildlife, kind of on a similar thing, is that there's a local wildlife rehabilitation organization here in Nashville. It's licensed wildlife rehab, called Walden's Puddle as opposed to Walden's Pond. And they have a staff of techs and stuff that take in injured, orphaned, and sick wildlife, and hopefully are able to, and they have a pretty good record on their success. And they'll take injured wildlife in and rehab them and then re-release them into the wild. And I, in particular, they get calls about hawks and owls and foxes and stuff. And so I go out and capture these animals, bring them into the facility, and then the techs take over. And then the real gratifying part is that we get to take them and release them. You know, I've released bald eagles and red-shouldered hawks and foxes and stuff in it back in the wild. It's really cool. So
that is really cool.
That's my other passion too.
Yeah, I love that because that's what I did for a living for quite a while. Long.
Oh yeah.
The whole Molly song.
Me and Molly.
Yeah. Was that brought on because of your love of dogs, or?
Well, it was because of my love of dogs, but it's actually a true story. A friend of mine who he's now lives in Florida. He was in Nebraska, and his name is Paul Coulterman. He came to Canucopia frequently, and one time we were off on the side thing having a beer, and he was telling me about his black lab Molly, and how his black lab, he would take his black lab Molly on solo canoe trips up into Wabakimi and Woodland Caribou and Temagami and all kinds of points. And he told me this story, and he told me with such passion about he and his dog, and I was really moved by it. And I know one of the stories he told me and was that he had just got a new solo canoe, a Lonestar Magic, I might add. And he brought it in. I have to get the plug in. He brought it in and put it in his garage when he brought it home. And the first thing Molly did was step in the canoe. We got, okay, when are we going? You know, she was a true canoe dog, and they were really connected. And I was just motivated. I decided to write the song. It was just a tribute to his connection with Molly. And it's really touched a lot of people. I do that song here at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville frequently, and people still like it.
How about now? How about
now?
Now?
Sure, I can do it. Yeah, definitely.
This is an excellent interview. I'm
glad. This is fun. This is fun. We should get together sometime. Hang out. Yeah, this is a totally true story. I took the stern. She took the bow. I settled in, and she settled down. Put her nose on the thwart to get the best view. That's me and Molly in our canoe. We talk about the ways of the world, all those we love, and how she's a good girl. And then she'd show a big smile that says, I agree with you. That's me and Molly in our canoe. My best friend, my companion, always by my side, wherever we landed. And no journey was so hard we couldn't make it through. That's me and Molly in our canoe. Yes, no journey was so hard we couldn't make it through. That's me and Molly in our canoe. They say there's a bridge where she's waiting for me, and I hope there's a clear stream below. 'Cause when I meet her there, it will be so sweet when we jump in that boat and go with the flow. When I go with my best friend, my companion, always by my side, wherever we landed. And no journey was so hard we couldn't make it through. That's me and Molly. That's me and Molly That's me and Molly in our canoe. There you go.
That's excellent. My dog's now asleep.
Doggy lullaby.
Oh my Lord. So I didn't want to ask you what your favorite song was. I didn't want to ask you what your favorite album is. But because, you know, those are the same thing as your favorite canoe route and stuff like that.
Yeah, really.
But what's the one canoe song that you wrote that you really thought would be a hit in your other genre?
That's a good question. And of course, none of it has happened. But first of all, my standard answer to the favorite song question, because I get that question a lot, but it's also a true answer, is that my favorite song that I wrote is the last one that I wrote. You know, it's kind of like your favorite trip was the last trip you took. You know. However, there's a song that I wrote one time. It's on the Paddle On CD called Milky Way Waltz. And I always, as a waltz, I thought that would be a good pitch to a country artist, you know. And I have a music publisher here that I work with, and I told him, I said, his name is Cheryl. It's a different spelling than the feminine Cheryl. But I said, Cheryl, I think this would be a good pitch. And he goes, Jerry, nobody cuts a waltz anymore. You know, and that's the music business, you know. And of course, then the first thing you do is you turn on a radio and you hear a waltz, you know. But that's happened many times to me. But that song probably I thought would be a mainstream song, to answer your question. How I call my paddle songs and my mainstream songs.
It's I had that on my list of one of my favorites. So.
Oh, really? Cool. Yeah. So
I don't know if you want to play another. Can you play that one?
I can play that one. Yeah. This was actually came from being out on a solo trip and just seeing, you know, that when, you know, in those dark skies and seeing that Milky Way just light up across. It's just, I still get amazed at it when I see it. And so that's what this one is. It's called the Milky Way Waltz. Every beacon that's shining its light from above seems to be singing a melody here just for us. A shooting star rhapsody in million-part harmony. So dance with me, come dance with me, under the sky as the summer night falls. Dance with me, come dance with me, just you and I and the Milky Way waltz. There's not enough stars here to tell me how lucky I am that I have as perfect a partner as you in my hand. So maybe can we just pretend this perfect night will never end? So dance with me, come dance with me, under the sky as the summer night falls. Dance with me, come dance with me, just you and I and the Milky Way waltz. And when tomorrow's sun sets, we'll do it all over again. So dance with me, come dance with me, under the sky as the summer night falls. Dance with me, come dance with me, just you and I, under the sky, just you and I and the Milky Way.
Fantastic.
We'll send that out to Christine.
Quick, Christine, let's get out and see the Venus.
Oh, hurry, Kevin.
It's huge. It's huge.
Look at the crowd. The crowd for the penis man.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Oh my. Oh. Okay, all right. We're approaching. Serious. Okay, you ready? Ta-da! I thought, you know, we'd go to England and see like something like Stonehenge, but no, we have to stop along the right side of the road and see some guy's large penis that was supposedly put here 1,500 years ago. Yes, and if John Denver was still alive, he'd probably buy it.
You know what? That would be a great pitch. Yeah. The unfortunate part is that he's been gone a long time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I would love to play some of these songs for John Denver.
Yeah. All right, I'm keeping the script now, even though I haven't at all.
that makes it even more special.
That does, yes. Okay, two more questions. On your last album, you had a song, I got to read here, Out There With My Dad.
Yes.
And you had two renditions. You had the boy sing it, which was amazing.
Yeah,
and then you had you sing it. So when I listened to the album the first time, I didn't clue in.
That's really a compliment that you heard two different songs there. You know,
was that planned?
It was. I tell you what it was. No, it wasn't planned in terms of an artistic endeavor. That song is very near and dear to me because when I was a little boy, in my I would say from about 6 to 10 or 11, our family in Missouri, in Kansas City, we would take trips up to central Minnesota to a cabin on a lake there, not a lake that anybody knows about. In fact, I had to go several years ago. I went on a pilgrimage to find it again. And we would spend 2 weeks on this lake in a wood-heated cabin with an outhouse and pump water. I mean, it was pretty rustic. And my dad loved to fish for smallmouth bass, and I would treasure my time with him. Oftentimes in the mornings, bright and early in the mornings, he would take me out, just he and I, and we'd spend the whole day fishing. Sometimes the weather was horrible, and sometimes it wasn't. But the things I remember, just my time with him was very special, and I treasure that. And I wanted to write a song to commemorate that moment. So when I wrote it, it was obviously written from the point of my 10-year-old self. And I thought, in fact, you're kind of to blame for it. When you and I wrote Canoeing with Daddy, we wrote it from your daughter's point of view.
Canoeing with Daddy, and it's just like magic. When he hands me my paddle, puts a great big smile on my face. He's a little bit wacky, and a wee bit tacky, but I'm so happy when I'm canoeing with Daddy. Yes, I'm so happy, even when the weather's crappy. Yes, I'm so happy when I'm canoeing with Daddy.
Kyla Callan!
And so I had a little girl singing a song, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be kind of cool to put a little boy singing this song? And he did a wonderful job, and I loved the tracks on it and everything. But it was still a song for me to sing to my dad or about my dad. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do a guitar vocal of it just because I wanted to put my rendition down as well. And like you said, they came out so, even though it's exactly the same song, different keys, but because the boy sings in a different key than I do, but they came out so different. It was really nice having them both on there. So it was kind of a last minute decision to do so. Yeah. Oh, there's your dog.
There's the dog barking. Well, I think the last question I was going to say, well, what last song do you want to sing? But what about that? Do you want to sing?
I think that would be a perfect one. I'd love to do that. Yeah, out there with my dad.
And this is off your latest album, In the Middle of Somewhere.
In the Middle of The Middle of Somewhere is the name of the album, and this is the, let's see, gotta look now. It's the 7th song and the 11th song on the album with 2 different people singing. Bacon's in the skillet, pancakes sizzling and frying. Mom's still snoring, she's never up before sunrise. So it's just the 2 of us, packing the tackle and reels. Oh, what a day it's gonna be, I can feel it. Maybe we'll catch one, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll let the sun come out, but you know that I don't care if the weather or the fishing's good or bad, as long as I'm out there with my dad. Now the fish aren't biting if I'm not quiet, so I'm trying. Raindrops dropping, but that won't stop me from smiling. So it's just the 2 of us, rocking with the wind and water. Oh, what a day it's already been, and we're just starting. Maybe we'll catch one, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll let the sun come out, but you know that I don't care if the weather or the fishing's good or bad, as long as I'm out there with my dad. And I want this to never end, but as we reel the last line in, I hope and wish that someday we just might hear my own son say, maybe we'll catch one, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll let the sun come out, but you know that I don't care if the weather or the fishing's good or bad, as long as I'm out there. I don't have a care, as long as I'm out there with my dad. There you go. Thanks for asking for that song.
It's fantastic. It was very emotional for me because my dad was one who got me into the woods by fishing. So.
Is that right? See?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, that was definitely his part in my life.
Yeah. Well, cheers.
Root beer.
Right.
Whiskey and root beer. I've never had whiskey and root beer together. I wonder how that would go.
No. Ooh. Good Lord. Probably worse than this.
It almost was a snort out. Yeah, I noticed that you haven't had a whole lot of that.
It's very sweet. Very sweet.
Is it?
Yeah. I don't know. Here, look. I'll cherry. Yeah. Yep.
See, now we have to let your viewers know what we're talking about here. That actually came from Nashville, Tennessee. That's moonshine. And what's the flavor of it?
Elderberry.
Elderberry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Sean Raleigh, if you're watching, you can.
Actually, it's not that bad.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I think the first time I had it, I was like, whoa, but
that's
yeah,
Tennessee moonshine.
It washes down the bourbon really well. So, all right, thank you very much for that. That was
it's my pleasure.
And you keep safe and keep well.
I will. You too, my friend.
Yeah, and we'll see each other again at probably Canoecopia or Michigan or.
Well, the plan is, of course, hopefully by next February that things will be somewhat under control. We hope there is. The plan is we're going back to Toronto, so hopefully by then for sure, and then Michigan and then Canoecopia and maybe ports in between. Hard to say. It's hard to say what's coming. Just don't know, but I know we have a lot in common. All of us do out there. We love the outdoors. We love our paddles and stay with that intonation and we'll get through this.
Definitely. It will get us through it. The whole dreams of actually going out there again. So
exactly. The perfect ending. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks. Cheers.
I jumped up out of my tent. I was surprised to see a big black bear with my blue girl. This is what he said to me. I got the barrel